Hey everybody, thanks for watching today. This is the first in a short series of videos I've made about making a killer psychedelic trance lead using a few of my favorite processes. Now it's quite a multi-stage process, but what we're going to end up with is something a little bit like this. Now we're going to kick things off today by first heading in, taking a look at my Cubase project, opening up a patch in Serum, and then we're just going to start putting in some MIDI, and hopefully I can throw a few ideas at you. Enjoy the class. See you later. So I'd like to start by looking at MIDI and how we can use different MIDI patterns and how the way that we program notes is actually going to give us the kind of results that we're looking for. So let me just kind of quickly walk you through what we're looking at here at the project window. This is a template I always start with. I've got my references here. This is a reference folder. Referencing is a big part of the way I work, just in terms of keeping my ears fresh. I've got these 3 channels here set up to keys on my keyboard so I can really quickly bounce between my mix, other people's mixes, and get that sort of quick fire A/B feel. I've got my folders here. I always work in folders. It just keeps things nice and snappy. Here I've got my FX channels, Strymon, that goes to my Strymon pedals, various parallel compressors. My effects is here, generally put bits of ambient reverb, stuff like that, delays, and my group tracks. And I've got the track folding enabled in Cubase, so I can just press the plus key. I've got that set to the plus key and minus key, and basically at the touch of a button I can condense my entire project to just a few folders, which really helps my workflow out. When things are getting a bit chaotic, I can just sort of squash it all in like that. So, and for the purpose of this video, we're going. I've set up a kick and bass here. This is a kick and bass from my Sonic Formation sample pack, and we're using the Dust kick, which was tuned to G, and the Chrome bass. And it sounds a little something like this. Let me just mute this percussion. Done a little bit of processing here, which I'll walk you through very quickly. Kick, no processing. It's a little bit of a fade out on the sub there, just so it's not too boomy. At this BPM, I should note. And the Chrome bass, just done little fade outs there. Brought this note down a bit for that sort of gallop feel. Then a little bit of processing here, just to pull out a few of those resonances, which so you can hear that one more time. Just to smooth it out a little bit. Got the 1980 compressor here by URS. Really big fan of this compressor. It's kind of like my go-to for that sort of 1176 style compression. Attack all the way up, release all the way down, and it just gives it a really nice sort of clicky, transient feel. If I just pull the threshold down, you'll see how it really brings that pop out. Of course, the more it's enhancing the start of the sound, the less it's enhancing the sort of body of the bass. So I'm very careful there about not compressing it too much. looking at about sort of 2-3 decibels there of gain reduction. 4:1 ratio. R bass, classic, just for giving it a little bit of low end. I chose 72 because it just sounded the nicest to me. It seems to fit quite well with the kick. I literally just use my ears to arrive at that decision. Nothing too scientific going on there. Lfo Tool. Okay, so personally, I think this is an essential plugin, especially for electronic musicians. It's just a genius little thing, and most importantly, it works. It works really well. If you're not familiar with it, it's just tempo-based LFO that you can. This curve here can be set to control the volume or the pan. So this is a side chain. It's working as a sort of side chain pumper right now, and this is actually the default preset. So it's running at a beat quantize, and this is literally, it's just running through this volume curve in sync with my track. I never do like any routing to a sidechain compression anymore, or very rarely, especially for electronic stuff, because it's just so much quicker and easier, and it just works straight away, which is really what you're looking for, isn't it? Just stuff which just works without too much faffing around. You can also use it as an auto pan. And there's all sorts of functionality to it, and it's not expensive, so well worthy of your cash. So that's just giving it some sidechain pump there. I've also got a little percussion set up, because we're going to be working on synth parts. Just having a little bit of rhythmic stuff there helps me get in the groove and have something to work to. So I've just got a couple bits from Sonic Formations. So this is the shadow snare and the chromium loop, and it just sounds like this. Today we're going to be using Serum, which is just a fantastic bit of kit. I see no reason why everyone shouldn't have a copy of this if you don't already. First of all, they have a rent to own policy now, so you can either buy it or you can actually rent it for like $10 a month, and you're actually slowly paying it off, as opposed to the Adobe stuff or that house you might be renting. You actually get it in the end. It's got a drag and drop functionality that we've seen before in great stuff like Native Instruments Massive. The filters sound great, and there's tons of options. It's got you can put in your own waveforms. It's got effects which I actually use. It's got a direct out sub. I don't really need to sell the synth. I think it kind of sells itself. Really, really great stuff. And I've just made a patch here. Nothing too complex. It's more when we get to automating it that we could add more complexity to it. But this is just something off the initial preset here. Got a sort of robotic feel. I've just used the inbuilt oscillators, played with the wavetable a little bit on this one. This oscillator B, I've kept the unison quite low, so it's kind of quite a punchy mono sound, as opposed to oscillator A, which I've jacked the unison up and the detunes. It's a little bit wider. Got a little bit of filter envelope going on here, just to give it that sort of slight clickiness. In terms of effects, got a little bit of this hyper dimension stuff on, which just sort of adds a little bit of area and space around each sound. Got a bit of this bit crusher. And Bit Crush has, always been popular for psychedelic trance, but I think a lot of people are using it these days to just give it that presence, sticking it on top to just give it nice kind of crunchy top, which I think fits in really well with the sort of percussion you're hearing these days. Chorus, I'm a big sucker for modulation stuff. I find I can just get just a little bit of sort of doubling from the chorus. It gives it some sort of space. I'm always looking for any plugins that just seem to create a sense of space and size around the sound, just to make it sound a little bit more sort of smooth and produced. It's got the great built-in compressor with a multi-band feature with the bands that you can actually slide around, which I don't or haven't yet experimented with too much, but it just radically sort of smashes the sound in a really musical way. In this filter, I've got the formants loaded in here, and the formants on Serum are really fantastic. On pretty much every other synth, I've found the formats to be something which could sound so good, but they always sound like edgy and kind of like too sort of resonant, unless you're like at really low octaves. But this is the formats in the Serum are I just think they're incredible. And I've done a little bit of LFO on the cutoff in the format, so just so the sound isn't too static. I like to keep things, I like lots of little things moving in synths so that they don't get too static. Yeah, so let's go playing some notes, which is the focus of today. We're gonna start super simple, just a bar, and we're in G. So I'm just gonna draw in something really basic. Super simple. And so the first thing I want to look at in terms of adding complexity or interest, just varying the note length. So let's go in here, and I like to start by getting these sort of tiny little, for some reason I've grown to call these funk notes. Little, I don't know, to me that they just give it a sort of funky, rhythmic, percussive quality. And again, I'm going to keep changing the length of these so that we've got a sort of varying quality here, so that all the notes sound slightly different from each other. Okay. And I'm not sort of playing to rhythm in my head here. I'm just kind of moving stuff around and seeing what it throws at me. You notice I've actually not put notes on the downbeats. To me, that's kind of where the snares tend to be. So I've just naturally sort of grown to not put notes where the snares are, just to leave space. There's no rule there. That's just sort of how I've developed my instincts. Okay, so that's already added a sort of level of interest to the sound. And we haven't really even really done that much yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to extend this by 1 bar. And this is sort of how it tends to go for me. It's just start in a bar or even half a bar and then double that and then into 2 bars. An hour down the line, it's, you've got 2 minutes for range. So yeah, now that we've had a look at changing those note lengths, and how that's given it a sort of almost sort of human quality, less monotonous, less robotic. Let's take a look at some Portamento. I think a pretty essential sort of psychedelic trance effect. If you didn't know, Portamento just describes two notes bending into each other. You even get Portamento when talking in sort of orchestral terms. So for 2 notes to blend into each other, the synth needs to see these notes overlapping in the way which we're going to set it up today. So let's create a bit of overlap there. And then I'm going to head over back to Serum. I'm going to turn mono on. That'll tell Silent that only 1 note can be playing at any one time. We're not creating chords or harmonies just yet. So I don't want both of these notes to be playing at the same time. I want this first note here at G2 to actually just bend down into G1 and Serum to play that as if it's 1 note. And this Portamento knob here actually controls the speed at which that happens. So, ooh, and at some point, seem to have changed the tempo there. Sounded quite funky, actually. So I'm going to turn on the mono, like I just said, and bring this Portamento knob up. I can actually make that happen even quicker by just bringing this note back a little bit. I might also just enable the key track, which means that the filter will follow the notes playing. So this lower note will get a lower filter position. That's actually brightened everything up a bit, hasn't it? So just gonna adjust this filter envelope a bit. Try a bit of resonance. Okay, getting a little carried away with filters, as I tend to do. So yeah, that's got a sort of nice kind of almost human quality to it. Why don't we try and get another one of those in there? Let me... and just tweaking that speed there until it just feels right. Cool. Again, I'm going to keep tweaking those notes, and And so this is actually kind of quite a key part of how I work, is to work on each task just a little bit until I feel like I've sort of claimed a small victory with it, and then move on. And then I tend to come back to it later. So for instance, I started with varying the note lengths, but then as soon as it started sounding good, I moved on. And now I'm starting to hear, again, now that I've had a bit of distance from it, I'm starting to think, oh, hang on, actually that note could be a little bit shorter. So again, it's that sort of broad brushstrokes way of working. Again, this note could be a little shorter as well. Okay, so already just applying those two ideas has given it a sense of interest. Why don't we try adding some 30 seconds in there? So everything here has currently just been in this to the 16th grid. But what I'm going to do is come up and put in a 30-second grid, and these little 30 seconds can be tricky to get the timing right, but let's see here. It's gonna create a little sort of rolling sound. Don't know if you heard that. Let's put another one there. Perhaps one there. Can't overlap with that one. Okay, a little short. Like I said, I always find the rhythm of these little rolls to be tricky to get right. But this last one sounded quite nice. Yes. In fact, don't even like that one anymore. Really like that one. Let's try that in the first bar. So let's leave that there for a moment. Keep working ahead. And so let's try and get some actual different notes in there and deviate from that G, just to give it some actual melody. Okay, so now let's move into getting some notes in there, which is, of course, the most sort of subjective part of any sort of musical process. And I'm not. It's not something I really use music theory for. You know, I don't sort of like use scales or apply theory. You know, because some people ask, you know, what scales get used a lot, and yeah, you know, you might see that there's a lot of sort of harmonic minors and Phrygian scales for the more sort of Eastern sound, but I myself, I just move notes until it sounds good, and I think that's just down to us as artists to use notes which complement our artistic vision, and which just sound good. So I really do just move stuff around. I can say that it's almost always in minor scales, because I don't actually know of any Psytrance tracks in major scales. Okay. Now, one thing I would urge you to try is to not just work within this sort of zoomed in box here, but to kind of try going a bit nuts with the octaves. That's where you can really bend some interesting tonalities out of the synth. Get up here. And we can try those lower octaves as well. Again, playing with the note lengths. Ooh, little happy accent there. And these kinds of accidents, sort of happy accidents like that, they only come around when you start messing around and playing with stuff. So I'm just going to keep on just hitting different notes and seeing how those might fit in. And again, just seeing what sort of results I can get if I bring in more overlap, more Portamento. In this case, I'm actually going to try turning that key track off and compare the two different versions. Yeah, to me that sounds like something I'm gonna have more control over actually when that filter track is turned off, because I know I'm gonna be going crazy on the filter later, and it means that I'll be able to get a nice open filter on these lower notes. It's not gonna automatically pull the filter down. Let's try some more extreme octaves. Okay. So now it's starting to get somewhere. I just keep playing with the positioning as well until I'm just sort of following my own sense of groove here. Again, there's no rules, you know. I'm not applying a sort of secret theory here, you know. I'm just listening and trying to enjoy the process and sort of feel the groove of it. That's what's dictating where these notes go and where these notes don't go. Try and make these a bit shorter. Maybe a bit longer. All right, so that's something I think I'd be quite happy to move on with. Okay, so by just going in there with a few principles and techniques in mind, we've gone from just having a really simple pattern in G to getting something with a lot more life and sort of funk into it, starting by varying the note lengths. Just stretching and compacting, getting those little micro, super short funk notes in there, which give that sort of percussive, sort of bitsy quality, and then getting the portamento to give that kind of bendy, elastic feel, and then just trying to expand everything there across the note spectrum. And there's nothing adventurous going on there musically. It's all just normal minor scale stuff. Just trying to sort of venture into those lower octaves as well, where we can get some really great sort of like artifacts out of the synth and get some kind of low growly stuff, as well as going up to the top octaves here. Depending on, you know, whatever synth patch you're using, sometimes those high notes can be a bit piercing. But try just expanding and spreading those notes out across the spectrum. Okay, and that concludes the first part of the series about making a killer psychedelic trance lead. Why don't you head over to the second video where we head into the synth, start tweaking knobs, and use automation to take it really to the next level, give it some energy and life. Happy producing, guys. See you later.
Music.